everyone, and welcome to Emily's Expert Explanations, where each week we answer a question from one of our audience members. And today we have Elizabeth Delarocca with us. Hello and welcome.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Of course. What is your question?
Well, I was really wondering, with the constant discussion of fake news, I was wondering, what do citizens need to know to be informed and critical news consumers?
That's a really great question, and it's one that often doesn't get enough buzz. But I have gone into the world of news, and I have come up with 5 great tips for you. A news desert is an area of the country where specific counties actually don't have access to newspapers, and oftentimes these places are low income and also food deserts.
Why is it important to know what a news desert is?
So it's important to know because actually most of the country doesn't know 1 in 5 newspapers have disappeared, which makes where we get our news much more limited, and in turn it makes us vulnerable.
We're vulnerable?
Exactly. We're vulnerable due to 3 main types of information: misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation.
And what are the differences between these?
Alright, so it gets a little confusing, but misinformation is when someone tells you something that is inaccurate or false, but they didn't know it was false. Disinformation is inaccurate information that's told to you with the intent to cause harm. And malinformation is when they take those private conversations and exploit them publicly.
Well, how is it possible to put aside my personal bias towards a news source?
Well, you actually don't have to put aside your opinions, just be open to the criticism of both sides of a story. For example, Lauren Feldman in her piece titled The Hostile Media Effect found that people who have strong viewpoints on specific issues see media coverage opposing their views just as biased.
But isn't it a journalist's job to report the news completely unbiased?
You would think, and that is what their job is, but in society today, Feldman brings up the point that even if there is a balance and only factual evidence is used, some people still see it as bias.
That's ridiculous. If there is still bias in the journalist's reporting, is it possible for me to decipher between fact and opinion?
It is. According to Pew Research Center, people with high political awareness and technological savvy can accurately differentiate between facts and opinion.
What's a social media bot?
According to Recode, bots are people creating fake accounts and websites to promote false information and stories until they become trending.
Does this only happen in politics?
Actually, no. This can impact politics and even business corporations. Oftentimes it's due to wanting to degrade the corporation or create a bad reputation for certain political parties.
Oh, I think I heard about this with Facebook. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, the Facebook Dilemma was a series explaining how Facebook first started off as an organization that just wanted to connect the world, but their exponential growth led to inconsistent safety practices, and people were allowed to create their own sites, which actually led to polarization in countries like Egypt.
Wow, that's crazy. How can I protect myself from these fake sites?
The best way to protect yourself is to make sure you do not release too much information and be mindful of what you like and share online. Oftentimes, algorithms of social media sites take down your data and then they tailor what's shown to you. The media utilizes agenda setting and framing in order to get their specific messages across to audiences.
What are those?
Well, agenda setting is when the news media utilizes the selection process of stories to tell the public what to start thinking about.
Oh, so they just raise our awareness to what's going on in society?
Exactly. But framing, on the other hand, is the way in which they tell the stories. And they often take really complex stories and sell them in different ways.
Oh, okay. Can you talk about an example in which this is used?
Sure. So take, for example, the war in Iraq, which Bennett actually brings up in the book. During the Bush presidency, there was not immediate love for going into Iraq, but the marketing directors of the president phased information in a certain way and made it personalized to the American public and created a deep emotional appeal. They dramatized the need to take immediate action, and soon the whole public was in for it. It was really a form of propaganda.
Are there any flaws with this kind of system?
There's 4 common flaws, and they are personalization, fragmentation, dramatization, and normalization.
Would you be able to give me a quick summary of these?
Sure. Personalization is when the news media really connects to an individual story. Fragmentation is just short summaries. Dramatization is when they overly exaggerate instead of focusing on facts. And normalization is when they try to solve a crisis in current societal positions.
So not just social media?
Broaden your horizons. Social media is a starting spot, but you should look to other news sources. Vanessa Otero created a chart that depicts the bias in so many of our news sources, but there's a few that range in the neutral zone. that utilize factual information.
Really? What are they?
So the top two are Associated Press and Reuters, and both of these use original fact reporting, and they either have minimal showing of partisanship or they at least consistently show both sides.
So both of these won't create polarization?
Their agenda is set to basically just report the news, which really shouldn't create polarization.